Ideas are everything, and in the times that we're living, ideas for peace are essential. In this series of interviews, we will discuss some of the most urgent world challenges of our time with renowned scholars and some of the solutions to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. Stay tuned for the interview that we have prepared for you.
It's great to be here. It's my first time in Costa Rica, and it's the first time in the University for Peace. But of course, I knew about the university, particularly when I was controller in the UN, so I'm really happy to be here. It's wonderful to meet all the student body and your faculty and your rector and your dean. So I'm really pleased to have had the opportunity to come here to talk to all of you. Regarding being a woman in the UN, I have always taken my role as a section head or director or department head or whatever positions I have had in a very gender neutral way. I think that we have to more important that we bring our skills, our professionalism, our passion, our commitment to the organization rather than our gender-specific qualities. Of course, I am a woman and I probably manage as a woman, which may mean that I have the characteristics, maybe I speak more, maybe I meet more, maybe I mix personal and business because I think that work is also personal because it gives you personal satisfaction, because you can influence other people, because you can have an impact. So it's very important that one is oneself. So you said, what can I suggest or what can I, from my career, conclude? What I conclude is that you have to be yourself. If you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're from a certain nationality, a certain ethnical background, you just have to bring your own values and pour them into the UN. Because you see, the UN is precisely the integration of diversity. And it brings together in a rich way that is different, that we can all work together towards a peaceful world, where human rights prevail, where there's opportunities for economic development, where there is opportunities for nations and for individuals to really fulfill their a positive life. So we have to work for diversity, for inclusion. But in my view, my personal view is you don't bring necessarily your gender into the forefront. What you bring is your skills, your attitude, your professionalism. Yes, certainly, perhaps the best is to imagine a world where there's no United Nations. I mentioned this morning when I was speaking to the student body that the United Nations provides a venue, provides a gathering place, provides a discussion place. That doesn't mean that it's going to provide all the answers, but at least it is a forum where member states and the global community and NGOs and all the different stakeholders can come together and discuss issues. Now, the issue of inequality, of course, comes from economic situations, from social situations, political situations, even from climate. We know now that climate is affecting usually more vulnerable populations in a worse way. So in a way, if we all work towards climate, making sure that we preserve the integrity of our climate, we will be at least reducing some potential inequalities that come from the deterioration situation. So the United Nations, with their Sustainable Development Goals, and number one goal is reduce hunger and poverty. That's what we're trying to do, is trying to reach inequalities, because poverty does, when there's poverty and there's no education, there's no good nutrition, there's no opportunities, creates more inequalities. So I think it's right that the Sustainable Development Goals #1 is no poverty, because that is what we have to address to begin with. And the United Nations is all of its different branches and different offices are precisely concentrating and gathering around the Sustainable Development Goals. So we have a path forward. We have an agreed agenda that we can follow and try to reduce inequalities at all levels. Yes, I do believe that the tide, I hope the tide is changing. And I do believe that as the problems of the world become more obvious to everybody through social media, through more knowledge and information, I do believe that the private sector is starting to realize then that doing business, first of all, in an ethical manner, transparent manner, legal, within the rule of law, in the long run pays. In the short run, maybe profit is the #1 goal. But for those businesses that are smart and that are in for the long run, they should, and they are realizing that having better impact on the social wealth and sustainability of a country will mean more business for them. So you see companies that are investing in clean water, you see companies that are investing in renewable resources of energy, you see companies that are bringing into their fiber the social outreach and are creating foundations or helping. And more we see examples of entrepreneurs and very individuals that have become extremely wealthy and are turning around and are realizing that helping the agenda that is driven by Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals is good business. So UNICRE has done a study about the supply chain of the extractions, for example, of precious metals. And we have had support from governments and from private sector to do these studies. There is a UN resolution that calls for more information about it. Why? Because if you look at the supply chain of precious metals, for example, it has to do with labor, with the health of the employees who are working on this, with the commercializing the precious metals and the entire supply chain, the taxes, the whole integrity of the process. And we do see that not only member states, but private sector is also interested in doing the right thing. It's not good business for them, and there's a company that says, well, child labor has been involved in this, or there's irregularities in the way that they extract these minerals. But further, you see, the Sustainable Development Goals is an agenda that is not only for governments, it's an agenda that is inclusive. Private sector knows that, and they are getting on board, as are NGOs and civil society, academia, everybody. It's a very inclusive agenda, and we need everyone to make sure to move the agenda forward. So I know in general, of course, governmental organizations are cautious about engaging closely with private sector because you don't want to be used for a profitable purpose. But I think that it's the opposite. What's happening is that the private sector is realizing that this agenda, they also have a role to play, and that there is some social responsibility that they have. And ultimately, as I say, that adhering to the agenda, doing the good thing, is good business for them in the long run. Look, artificial intelligence is like a dual-use technology. So somebody said that the first time that man created a hammer to use as a tool, they also realized that they could do something very damaging to another human being or to property with that. So I think that it's not the first time that the world has encountered a tool that can be used for good or for bad. In the case of artificial intelligence, in UNICRI in particular, we have a Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics in The Hague. And we are using the center as a source of knowledge and information, particularly as artificial intelligence in relation to law enforcement. And what we are finding is that being a UN organization gives us the advantage, so to say, that we want to make sure that this technology is used in the right way, within the right ethical framework, and with the human rights, the right to privacy, some assurance of that. But progress cannot be halted, and artificial intelligence is definitely in the future, whether it is usage in medicine, in transportation, in energy. There are so many applications. The analysis of big data that can predict or advance information on something. It's up to human beings to use this tool in the right way. And it is very important that United Nations organizations get involved in the conversation surrounding artificial intelligence, precisely because we try to bring this assurance of human rights and individual rights that need to be taken into account. So a few years ago, UNICRI received contribution from a donor, and to see what were the most effective tools of preventing radicalization and violent extremism. So the approach that we took was to give small grants, sort of mini grants, to local associations and local societies in small towns, and give them the opportunity of designing their own project. In other words, we didn't tell them you should do A or B or C with these funds. What are you going to do that responds to the needs of your community? And I think that this speaks to the fact that communities know what the problems are within themselves, and that they are in the best position to determine what are the gaps, what are the reasons that young people often are choosing a path of radicalization? What are the frustrations that they have? What are the gaps in the community? What is it that they're missing, that they are searching for violent solutions? So what we found is that communities use these grants in many different ways. Many of them used sports as a vehicle to integrate and to keep youth involved and active, and maybe even bring some self-respect and comfort, that they would not then be so vulnerable to radicalization. So we have, UNICRI has just published a publication on this. I invite people to visit our website in unicri.it, and I think that you will find all the different reasons. It is a complex landscape, but communities themselves usually have the best solutions. We have to, yes, help them, but sometimes it doesn't even take a major investment. It just takes the conversation and giving them some funds so they can start something, and the community itself oftentimes will be the best assurer of preventing radicalization. I think that we're one of the players in this field. I think that there are many good UN organizations that are also working either together with us or on their own in the same approach. I do believe that there is a general acceptance precisely that we need to understand the problems close by, that we cannot bring outside solutions, that we have to let the communities themselves address this problem, because they are mostly affected by it. And in general, if you help them a bit with the tools, then they will take the initiatives that are necessary. But I think that there are many players throughout the United Nations. Certainly, the United Nations Office for Counterterrorism, CTED, which counterterrorism as well, UNODC. I mean, there's many organizations that are taking this very seriously, and we are all working together and collaborating under one global framework, so that we can ensure that we understand radicalization, that we prevent it at an early stage, and that we address it as an important issue that it is. That is a difficult thing. I think that more than challenges, there are opportunities. I think that in the new world where communication is so fast, when you can do crowdsourcing and that you can organize a huge concert over Facebook or one of the social media, I think that all this information that is now available, all this understanding about the diversity of the world, it is, I can tell you, not previous generations didn't have that. So I believe that your colleagues here in UPs have to leverage the technology that you have, the information that you have, and continue to, of course, be creative and mix, or not mix, but moderate precisely this technology and social media with a human approach, with a human rights approach, with dignity and opportunity for everyone. So I think that you have a lot of tools at your disposal, and I am very hopeful that this generation of young people will understand the problematics of the world. You see what's happening in climate change, that it is young people who are moving this agenda forward and making their demands, and hopefully also in other areas, like if it's labor laws, or if it is access to education or to health. I believe that you all have good tools, and I'm hopeful.
If you enjoyed the interview, please share it with your friends. If you would like to support us, remember that you can donate in our website, www.ideasforpeace.org, and remember to follow us in Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter to know when we launch the next interview.